Journey has been kind of proclaimed to us, come, follow me, answering the call to discipleship. But very few of us have been referred to and have understood ourselves to be disciples of Jesus, called to be a disciple of Jesus. So that was the first me. So that's what I'm throwing that flag up first. Do I know myself to be called a disciple? The second me is Jesus the Master. So do we know from the ancient setup of masters and disciples, if you're going to be a disciple, you got to have a master. And to have a master and to be invited into the master's formation group is a great opportunity, a great privilege, and it is requiring the change in our lives. And so do we know this Jesus as master? So this is the master who has called us, the disciples. And so now we come to follow. So I guess I'm figuring out as if we don't know ourselves as disciples, but rather maybe as, I'm thinking, good Catholics. I think that has been the goal of my life. You know, I've even announced myself. I think I'm a pretty good Catholic, you know. I think you all are pretty good Catholics. Now, I know because you and I have both gone to confession. I mean, I haven't gone to confession myself, but I mean, many of you have gone to confession to a guy like me, and I know that, and you wouldn't know because I haven't gone to confession in front of all of you, but, you know, in in the deepest intimacy of my heart, I am not so sure about all the good aspects of my life as a Catholic, a good Catholic. What I would like to suggest today, as with the woman at the well, and as with the people in the desert today, did you hear that they said, because they got a little thirsty, because they got a little hungry, all of a sudden they said, what is this? Why did he drag us, Moses? Why did you drag us all the way out here into this desert to die of thirst when we could have had our fill of water and meat? And, you know, that's going to go on. The complaining goes on. We could have just stayed in Egypt. We could have stayed in slavery. We could have still known ourselves. So there they are. They don't know that they are called not to be slaves anymore. That's why you can't go back to Egypt. That's why he called you out of Egypt. You've got to become something other than you thought you were. You are not slaves. You are free. And Pharaoh is not your king, but the Lord God is your God. Sisters and brothers, I'm just wondering, do we have the courage and the insight and the freedom to pick ourselves up and to know ourselves as a disciple and look at the Lord, the master of our lives, and say, are you calling me? And where do you want me to go? Where do you want me to go? The GPS thing in your car. I don't know if you've done this. I was trying to find like Outback or something, you know, like carry-out order. And it says Independence. You know, it said Outback Independence because that's the place I was calling. Well, I didn't bother to read the second word in the address line. And so I made a reservation or an order for my carry-out food in Independence, Missouri. Did you know there's an Outback in Independence, Missouri? Sisters and brothers, if you don't know, if you think that what you're called to be, if I think that what I'm called to be, the destination that you're putting into your global positioning system, your directions, if you don't know that you're called to be anything other than just a good Catholic, then that's where you're going to end up. And I'm sure Marty's, yeah, and what's wrong with that? That's been good for 2,000 years. Well, sister, brother, I got news for you. The gospel, I say the church, the world, the circumstance of our world is calling us to be something more than just good Catholics. And I'm afraid that we may be missing out on an essential route through life because we have got the wrong destination in our thing. We are not following the way of the Lord has promised for you, so that we might end up, can you imagine, like those Jews in the desert, to spend all this time wandering about, not realizing that we're really headed back to Egypt. We're really headed back to Egypt. And we were deceived by the fact that, okay, what do I have to do to get into heaven? Father, tell me. Okay, you got to get baptized. Okay, then what do I have? Then I got to make my first communion. Okay, then what do I have to do? I got to avoid mortal sin. And then if I do, I have to go to confession. And if I go to confession, I go to communion once a year. Did you ever? How about this one? Father, how much of the Mass do I have to be present for in order for it to count? Show your hands if you've ever asked your mother that question. Do you see the problem with this? Only somebody who doesn't know where they're going would ask their mother that question. How much of the Mass can I miss and still get credit for it? Sister and brother, that's a Catholic thought. That's a Catholic question. And it is possibly the wrong direction. It's a wrong turn. And it is going to have you end up, and me end up, in the wrong place. And where do we want to be? We don't want to be in the minimal Catholics check off all the boxes. I did the minimum I had to do to get into heaven. I don't know what that department of heaven is going to be, but I'm thinking there's a lot better promised land for all of us, sisters and brothers. What I'd like you to put in your GPS, what I think the church and the Lord would like you to put in your GPS, I should have come up with a little crafty, whatever that thing is, for GPS, for God's preference for your soul. Why don't you put disciple, faithful disciple of Jesus, the Master? Put that in your pipe and smoke it, as my dad would say. Huh? Put that in the system and see if it doesn't go, what does that thing say? No, that guy doesn't say recalculating. Siri doesn't say recalculating. Remember the Garmin guy, recalculating, because I had a British voice on mine. Recalculating. I'll bet if you would seriously consider this call to come follow me, answering the call to discipleship, and find out Jesus, the Master, to be a faithful disciple of Jesus, the Master, that's where I'm heading. I'm going to put that in my GPS, and I got news for you. You're going to have some recalculation on what you're doing every day, what you're doing every week, what you're doing when you come in here, what you're thinking, how you're praying. Not just that you're praying. Father, I didn't get all my prayers done. You know, I'm that way. I didn't get all my prayers. Check, 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 check. I don't want you to stop praying, and I want you to stop spending the time. But I would ask you to recalculate what it is that you're doing in that time. Are you acting like a faithful disciple of Jesus, sitting at the feet of Jesus, the Master? Or are you acting like an accountant, saying, okay, look, got that, yeah, check. All right, next, check, got that one, check. Sisters and brothers, this is an opportunity for a new life. That's what Jesus said to the woman at the well. And she said, I didn't realize I was headed in the wrong place. I should have figured this out because you know what? There's one thing, a guarantee I can tell you. You are going to end up exactly in the place that you were aiming for. You are definitely going to end up in the place where you were aiming for. What I'm asking you to do is to join me. Let's recalculate the destination of how we're going to follow this Jesus the Master. And let's see if we don't find new life.